Well, those living in the bushfire-prone area, of course, they live in the beautiful tree-studded areas that they, would like to be underneath, of course, and enjoying the nature. But it comes, of course, the risk of bushfire, and then what they do, of course, they go out and they try to reduce the risk of bushfire by bushfire-proofing their homes, but seemingly it may not be enough. Stephen Chandler is a property development expert, and he joins us now. Good afternoon to you, Steve.
Oh, thank you, Jenny.
Getting all tongue-tied here. I've never lived in bushfire-prone areas, but it just takes my breath away when summer starts, and you wait for the news of a morning and thinking, please don't let it be going on at the moment. You must see it all the time.
Oh, look, as a young fella growing up, I lived in the bush on the east coast and up in New Guinea. And as a child, you never even sort of worry about stuff. When you're running around in the scrub and having a wonderful time.
Yeah.
But as an adult, when you want to live in those type of environments, I mean, many years ago we didn't sort of have our bushfire codes, which allowed us to, or gave us guidance on how to design for minimising the likelihood of houses burning down in bushfire-prone areas.
Yeah.
But even today, where we have got these codes, one of our greatest issues is that nothing is perfect. Our codes are quite good, but notwithstanding, we still have a problem where a product that can be designed to withstand bushfires, a lot of people actually think it's a code that says my house will not burn down, and that is far from the truth.
Yeah, that's the frightening reality, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. We get this, most people who don't understand development and what the codes and standards are there to help us with, it's not a foolproof system. It's a best estimate of what could happen, and we just don't know what nature will actually provide at a point in time. So with the different rating systems that they have, you might be in an area that's rated in the middle of the scale, and you may actually get a bushfire that comes through your area that is at the top end of the scale.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, if you're designed for the middle, you've got no hope of your property surviving if it's one of those really bad ones.
Yeah. It's interesting because you're saying common sense has to play a very big part in this. But before we get to that, could you just explain a little, if you would, about the codes themselves? What is in place to sort of try and minimise the risk?
Yeah, so under the Building Code of Australia, there's a rating scale, if you like. It's the Bushfire Attack Level, BAL, and it determines there's different types of levels of attack, as they call it. So to try and keep it really simple, it's where you're going to get radiant heat, or you're going to get embers attacking, or you've got direct flame. So the codes allow for those different types of bushfire environments. What then happens is that you get, based on what your property might be assessed as, there are different types of design work that has to happen to meet those standards to avoid or minimise the likelihood of fire.
So this would be put in place with new homes, to be built. What about established homes?
An established home that would have been built prior to these codes coming into place, they would have just been built under the standards at that time. And if there was no bushfire code, then an older home that might be sort of, say, give or take 30 years old, it would not have been built to withstand bushfires like they are now.
That's, very good point there. And, of course, the risk too, Steve, of course, that people that go into those areas because they love the environment. You can't blame them for that. But come summer, with trees pretty close to their home, I have heard people say, well, the council won't let me cut down trees that I feel are too close to the home. Is that still the case, do you know?
I don't believe that council will stop you from trimming branches, etc., that overhang your home, that might be dropping leaves, etc., over the top of your roof. But quite often we can be our own worst enemies. We can quite often say, we want to have, shrubs grown up against our side wall of our house, and in a bushfire, they catch fire, particularly if they're, an oil-based plant. They catch fire, and you've got flame right next to your house. We can be our own worst enemy.
Yeah, we can, can't we? I know.
Yeah.
That's very true. Now, the basics, of course, is what we all should be thinking about, and you're suggesting perhaps that not everybody is preparing themselves for summer.
Look, bushfire safety plans, everyone should have one if you live in a bushfire zone. I'm not an expert in relation to what those safety plans are, but I can suggest to everybody who's listening who's in an area that is bushfire prone, you go to your local fire brigade, you get the safety plans, have yourself prepared for them.
Yeah.
If you get a major fire, I mean, here we are in first day of November now, but the amount of bushfires around Australia already is ridiculous.
Oh, you're absolutely right. It's quite frightening. And I mean, could I just diversify a little bit here to say that in California, every year they have these massive wildfires, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely enormous, and they're running around right now.
Yeah.
So here they're heading into their cooler months, and we're heading into our summer. But both countries are on fire.
Yeah, no, it's a very frightening situation. Cleaning gutters, installing screens on windows to stop embers entering, installing fire retardant blinds and curtains. That's good to know that that's available.
Oh, that's really, really important. But one of the things, if you read some of the info that's available about bushfires, about how homes get attacked, obviously the not cleaning your gutters is a big thing.
Yeah.
People think, okay, I'll put some gutter guard in, particularly if they've got the older homes that haven't been designed for bushfires. They put leaf guard in to say, hey, we'll keep the leaves out. Quite often they use the plastic ones.
Yes, of course.
And now you're in trouble.
Yeah.
The eaves of homes is where a lot of embers get in, so the roof is really a real problem, but also the undercroft of a house. So if your house is elevated off the ground, quite often you contemplate, people store things under their house.
Of course,
paints and, their timber flooring, things of that nature, and that's all product that's going to burn. And the last thing you want is a fire underneath your home.
Oh, my gosh, the horrible thought.
So screening to stop embers getting in underneath your home is also very important.
Yeah. I've often wondered why we don't have sprinklers on the roofs of these homes.
Sprinklers is really interesting. The codes at the moment say that if you put a sprinkler system in to your home, you've got to have 4 hours supply of water.
Yeah.
And you've got to have a pump. Now, if you've got a pump, then you need some type of motor for that.
Okay.
You don't want petrol in your house. Therefore, your choice is diesel. If you have petrol or diesel, you still have to exhaust to the outside, which means you've got to put a hole through your wall, through your ceiling, up through your roof, wherever, to get the fumes out.
Okay.
And it's got to be able to operate for 4 hours. So quite often that's not necessarily...
not a good idea.
Not necessarily. And you can't sort of pump it out of your pool either as well. Pool, because fire brigade need that.
Yep.
So you want to save that for them as well. But sprinklers are a great idea. They are truly a great idea if you can come up with a way of running them for 4 hours.
It's a pity, that there's so much involved in having that happen. But look, everyone's got to be very aware, Steve. So you obviously do travel around speaking to people about all these sort of things and how your home can be better, as far as risk management is concerned?
Well, we talk to people about their concerns. So as a property development expert, obviously development is the game, but I've been a licensed builder for 29 years, so quite regularly I'm talking to people about problems in and around their home.
Yeah.
And whenever I see anything like, we've got the trees encroaching upon a property, I can't help myself. I've got to say, look, hey, you've got a problem here. You need to sort of, work with council, clear clear.
Yep.
Yep.
Thank you very much for your information. Fingers crossed, and everything. Hoping that nothing will happen in the very near future. But thank you for joining us, Steve.
Thanks very much, Jenny.
Thank you, Steve Chandler.